Hi, welcome to Mindful Conversations. I'm Greg Dwyer. My guest today is Brooke Cheney. Last week we talked about gun control. I had so many questions that I just had to invite her back. Brooke, thank you for staying for another episode.
Sure, no problem.
So we talked last week about gun control, how you got involved, your past, and how you helped the community. I have one question, and that's this. How can you help more and more people in Connecticut be safe with guns and be instructed to do the right thing? How can you do that?
How can I do that? Wow, that's a big question. For me right now, I'm just doing one-on-ones.
Okay.
I'm actually working on getting some webinars together.
That would be great. Webinars?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually, because it's colder and I have an outdoor range right now, I'm working on small classrooms of like 3 to 4 people, just on basic gun handling skills.
Okay.
Because as a competitive shooter, I get to shoot and move and run around and shoot, which most people who are into firearms for self-defense never get an opportunity to do.
Okay.
Because most of us go to what's called a square range.
Right.
Somewhere, and you pay your $20 or $30 to stand there and shoot at a square piece of paper while you stand there.
Right.
And that's it.
Right.
For me, I get to take you on the range. I get to teach you how to shoot safely. I then also get to teach you how to shoot and move safely.
Okay.
And so there's lots of ways to teach them. And a big thing, like I said, I really, really do try to recruit people to come into the shooting sports because you learn more.
Okay.
I got my pistol permit when I was 21 because my husband had his pistol permit.
All right.
And I really got it just because he had firearms. So in case I was somewhere where he had been, I wasn't really that excited about firearms. It was just like, I'm going to have my pistol permit so that I can.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got into competition that I started actually learning. Because I started with what's called a bullseye competition, which is basically that you're in a square box shooting a very specific target.
And you're good at that?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
Oh, no, I'm awful at bullseye.
So
bullseye
you need to shoot a shotgun, right?
No, it's not that. It's the action shooting sports that I do now where I get to run around and shoot stuff.
Okay.
I'm better at that.
Okay.
Because it's still target shooting, but it's a lot more dynamic.
Now, I want to go into a political thing. It's controversial. A couple years ago, we went to Spain, we went to Greece, we went to Germany, and in some of these countries, nobody has guns except for the authorities. I remember one time we were in Italy. We had a group of people in Italy, and this was after there was a shooting, I think, in France. And so all of these police people were all over the place in Italy. And the guide that I had with me, she says, I want you to see this. She says, it's theater. And I said, what do you mean it's theater? She said, well, this is just here because people want to feel safe. But really, if someone wants to blow themselves up or do something crazy, you can't stop them. And when we were in Spain, our guide told us, be very careful about all of your belongings. And I said, yeah, why? What's the issue? She said, well, in Madrid, under $500, it's not a crime. They can steal your laptop, they can take your phone, they can take stuff, and they're not going to prosecute at all, and nobody has guns. So I remember we were in Germany about 1.5 years ago, and we were concerned about going to the Oktoberfest. And it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, thousands of people everywhere. We had to take the subway. We're looking around. We're all, concerned about, a soft target. We get back within a week, the whole thing happens in Vegas. And all of a sudden you hear the politicians talk about guns kill people, and you got to take guns away. It drives me crazy. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So what do you think about all of that?
Well, I know that was a big, long question, but honestly, I have the shortest answer for you.
Oh.
When you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns.
I agree. I agree. Now, it must get people upset when you say it so to the point, but it's true.
Well, and but a lot of people don't think of it that way.
They don't?
No, because they see the outline, or they see the headline, and it says, this gun killed all of these children. Because again, we're in Connecticut, Sandy Hook.
Sandy
Hook,
right? Yeah, sure. Sure.
And so I kind of figured out what I think where people are coming from because I've spent countless hours and days up at the Capitol listening to testimony. And one of the challenges I think a lot of people who think they're anti-gun have is the fact that they don't want to admit that there are people out there that can cause the atrocities that they are currently doing. So instead of blaming the person, they want to blame the cup.
I see.
So, but the cup is just a cup. And I can drink out of this cup, Or if I'm a violent person, I can smash you over the head with this cup.
Or put poison in the
or
cup.
put poison in the cup or whatever.
Right.
It's not about the cup. It's not about the gun.
Right.
It's about the person who's willing to do harm. And because we keep focusing on the cup, and the reason I say cup instead of gun
Yeah.
is because people hear gun and they immediately feel something.
Exactly. I do.
And
yeah,
so
exactly.
it's just like the cup is still a cup.
Right.
And it's about the person holding the cup that matters. And in talking with people, I have some very anti-gun friends.
You do.
I do, absolutely. I have a wide variety of friends. And in talking with them, one of the biggest things they say is like, oh, Brooke, I'm okay with you having a gun. It's those other people.
It's the crazy people.
Right. And it's just like, well, you can't regulate crazy. Back to the first portion of the question is, if you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns.
Right.
And it just seems so much simpler. People just want black and white answers.
They do.
They don't want to work.
They don't want to think. They don't want to think.
Yep. They don't want to have to spend money. And in all of my research I've done on violence prevention, you got to spend money because you have to put the programs in places like the cities. Because as I told you, the 20% gang violence.
Right.
Right? You have to put money into mental health because suicide is a mental health problem. But then we go to the other small number of crimes of passion. To me, a crime of passion is another mental health issue. It's like if I get mad enough at someone to want to kill them and then follow through on that, I don't feel that I'm very mentally stable at that point in time.
Well, do people think about this? Do they calculate it, or it just happens in an instant? What's the difference? There's got to be a big difference.
So,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched some interviews with people who are murderers and crimes of passion and that sort of thing. And I wish I remember the name of the documentary, but it was very well balanced as far as people who were for and against. And you can take people who were the perpetrators of violent crime based on emotion. And like one woman's like, if the gun wasn't there, she'd still be alive because she killed her girlfriend.
Killed her girlfriend?
Yeah, she killed her girlfriend in a fit of passion, and that was the end of that.
Oh my goodness, wow.
And so, but again, it's a matter of you and I get to decide what we're going to do with the cup.
Right.
The cup doesn't decide for us. So
Sure.
as far as the simplicity of let's outlaw guns, let's make it so that there are no guns available, back to if you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns.
Sure, sure.
Then we're still not addressing the issue of violence. We're still not addressing the issue of suicide prevention. So my biggest thing of being part of the voice that's heard in Hartford and in DC is that I just want to change the conversation from gun control to something that will actually have an impact on people's lives and actually save lives and be proven to save lives. The FBI, the Department of Justice, Department of Education, like they've done millions upon millions of dollars worth of research. And every single one of their research basically comes down to, for school shootings, it's about communication from teachers to parents to the administration to the police force in that area and counselors. When it comes to gang violence, it comes to communication within the communities. It's the cops working with the clergy, working with the social people, working with the schools, and it's about de-escalation and teaching people how to de-escalate.
Okay.
And I think today in America, all of us could use a little more training on de-escalation.
What does that mean?
So de-escalation is you say something I don't like, and instead of saying profanity and telling you to go take a long walk off a short cliff, I learn how to listen to what you're saying.
Behind the words?
No, just actually have a conversation like this.
Okay. Even though I'm being aggressive or violent in my language?
Yeah,
Really?
because it's two ways, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously, the best way to win the fight is to avoid the fight.
Sure.
However, if we can't have open dialogue, and if you can't calm down, then there's only so much I can do. But
because the emotions take over.
yeah.
Right.
But the idea is that we need to be able to converse and disagree and be able to have a conversation. Because you might have a spectacular point and I might have a good point. And neither one of them are perfect.
Sure. We're subjective.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you and I can actually talk on our opposing views, we're going to come up with a better solution.
I see people on Facebook, you know, they post things about Trump. They love him, they hate him, and people get so emotional. And I'm thinking, you're not really going to change the world with a post, either Trump or guns or abortion or anything, because people are emotional, and it's just a platform to maybe blow off some steam, but you're not going to solve anything there.
Right, but people are actually very brutal.
They are.
They're keyboard commandos. They never have to look you in the face. They never have to hear your voice.
Yes.
That's the other challenge with stuff like social media.
Yeah.
Because you hear my voice right now, you hear the timbre, the tone.
Right.
When you read something on Facebook or Twitter, it's whatever mood you're in.
Exactly.
If you're mad at that point in time and you read my post, you might hear me like this.
Isn't that interesting? It's all subjective.
It's very hard for people to understand that we need to be able to listen to the people who don't agree with us. I have lots of friends.
And be okay with that.
Yeah.
I have people that love Trump and people that hate Trump, people that like guns, people that don't like guns. And, you know, I mean, I've had beliefs like in the 70s and 80s that I'm embarrassed that I had those beliefs. Like I changed my mind.
Right.
So.
But you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
And you don't know what you're going to learn that's going to change your mind. Because like for me, I'm in politics and politicians always get strung up for saying, okay, I'm going to do this. And then they do this. And now that I've been involved in the political process, I understand sometimes it's that you learn something. Like when you were saying about the restraining order, your immediate answer was, yes, of course we want to take guns away from anybody who has a restraining order against them. I'm like, no,
that's
not
interesting.
Without due process, because that's what the bill was about.
Okay.
However, when you look at it and say, oh, but wait, what if somebody uses it backwards? And that's just it, is so many of the headlines you see, so many of the bills that are going past have little or nothing to do with the actual problem. And that's why banning cups is not the thing to do. Banning the behaviors or figuring out how to address the actual behaviors of people is absolutely the thing to do. And with 60% being the suicide rate of gun deaths in America, addressing suicide will absolutely have the biggest possible impact.
Well, you know, looking at numbers, and I'm not a numbers person, but looking at numbers, I think I read that every week in America that so many people die in car crashes. It's like it could fill a plane. It's like 300, 400, 500 people every single week all over the United States. We don't ban cars. I remember we were on a Christmas cruise. We came back from Germany, and the week that we got back, there was a guy, I think it was in Frankfurt. He took his car and he just drove it over the sidewalk and killed a bunch of people, jumped out of the car and got himself to Italy. And that happened like 2-3 years ago. So you don't want to ban cars. You know, it's like the cup. If you take away knives and guns, people are going to use something. You know, they'll break this and they'll turn it into a knife. I mean, they're going to do damage anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but again, back to the emotion side of it.
Yes.
Right? And why I talk about banning cups, not guns, because when I say cup, you can acknowledge the fact this is a cup and it's a thing.
There's no emotional thing
tied to it. There's no emotion tied to that.
Yeah.
When people who hate guns hear the word gun,
it's an association.
There's a tightness in the chest.
Yeah.
There's a shortness of breath.
Yes, yes.
And so it's about changing that perspective. And again, back to the education portion of things. One of my favorite things of being an instructor at a Great Start Shooting School is simply that I will take someone who has literally been scarred. I have one student who was literally scarred by going to the gun range with her friend. Her friend is not an instructor.
Okay.
Took her to the range and almost took her thumb off.
How?
Because he didn't show her how to hold the gun properly.
And it backfired,
and so
or what?
The slide went over her thumb and almost took her thumb off.
Oh my goodness.
So this poor woman, like, is mortified just at the noises that a firearm makes.
Oh, sure.
Right? So she's coming to me on a regular basis to overcome that fear.
Wow.
But here's someone who was physically wounded and is very much so emotionally wounded because of what happened to her, and is coming to me so that we can work through the understanding that she has the power over the cup.
Right.
Right.
That's great.
She has the power over that piece of metal. It's not the other way. The reason she got hurt was not because of the gun, but because she didn't have the education she needed.
That's right.
I have other students I have one whose brother was shot and murdered.
Well, let's talk about that after the break.
Okay.
Because I'm very aware of our time. So
All right.
we'll be back after this commercial break, and we'll talk about that story. So, hi, welcome back to Mindful Conversations. I'm speaking with Brooke Cheney. We're talking about drama, we're talking about association, we're talking about guns, we're talking about safety. So you were telling us the story about this person, and you're helping to rewire their brain around guns. So continue the story.
All right. So this one student I have, her brother was actually killed, murdered. And she's coming to me for training so that, because her current boyfriend wants her to have her pistol permit and all of that. And it's just, now these are the two people I just talked about. You know, they had actual bad events directly happen to them regarding firearms. But in general, the general public really just hears the word gun and just gets freaked out.
Right.
And for no apparent reason other than that's sort of what the headlines have always taught them to do.
It's association. I mean,
Yeah.
if you say something over and over again, like when I think of Vegas and I think of gun, immediately I think of what happened.
Right.
You know, there's a neuro association connected to the two.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole idea that it's a cup, it's a gun, it's a knife,
Right.
the violence, again, is back to the
Is
problem.
the real issue.
Yeah. So my whole thing is to get people over the fear, because we were talking before at the last episode about how when I got to pack my own range bag, and I'm like,
Yeah,
look
the
at
power
me.
pose.
You
Power
know,
pose,
I'm like,
yeah.
I totally feel like Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
because
power pose.
it's just like, all right, I can do this, and it's just like that's what I want to share with people. And I get to, and I mean, I have much less extreme clients than the two that I just talked about, but it's just like I love watching anyone walk into my office. We go over a lesson, and then you can tell that they're nervous. They're like,
Oh, I bet.
I don't know if you know, because they're afraid, because they have no idea. They understand that a firearm, just like a car, can cause grave damage.
Right.
But they know nothing.
Right.
It's not part of their lives.
Kind of me. That's where I'm at.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they leave, and they've got the perma grin because
I
they have that confidence, and that's really probably the biggest reason why I started a Great Start Shooting School, is to give people back that power, give people that education, give people that ability to overcome their fear.
I was in Haiti last year. We had to fly down to Fort Lauderdale. This had to be 2018, so it was January. So I'm in the airport, and they're ready to take us on this Royal Caribbean cruise, you know. And all of a sudden, they said, let's have a moment of silence. And you probably remember this. So I think the story was someone got off the plane, went down and got their bag, and then for some reason,
Yeah.
and I don't know the whole story, so I don't want to talk a lot about it, but there was a moment of silence, and I'm thinking to myself, how can you prevent that? Like, how did a guy get a gun on his luggage? I guess it was checked, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, that's not
I
what-
travel all the time with my firearms.
Oh, you do? So tell us about that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know what exactly happened there, but
Right.
enlighten me.
So
How do you do that?
Well, you just go to it's actually very freaky the first time you do it, because
Okay.
like you,
Right.
again, you don't know what you don't know.
I
So
don't.
you've never been through it,
Yeah,
right?
clean slate.
But as a competitive shooter, I travel all over the country.
All right.
I also travel all over the country for training,
All right.
because like I'm always getting training so that I can train you better.
Okay, great.
That's definitely my philosophy. I try to go to at least 1 or 2 trainings a year.
Nice.
My next one's actually in Texas. That's where I
Right.
get to shoot at helicopters and stuff.
Shoot at helicopters?
No, shoot out of helicopters.
Oh my goodness.
Out of helicopters, not at helicopters.
That's amazing. So
No,
you're going to be in a
no, no.
helicopter shooting at what
Yes,
kind of targets?
But you can look at that on my Facebook page.
Oh, wow.
The video's up there from 2 years ago.
All right.
So anyway, traveling with firearms.
Yeah.
Here in America, again, not giving you legal advice.
Yes.
But we have the Federal Firearms Protection Act, and it's FOPA.
Okay.
But basically, it allows us to travel from state to state over state lines. And there's lots of restrictions, and there's all sorts of things you don't want to do. But as far as just going to a airport, you have your firearm unloaded in a locked case.
In a lock case.
Yes.
Is it checked?
And it's a non-TSA lock, so that no one can get into that case,
I
because
see.
it's just your firearm. And you go to the ticket counter, and you tell them that you're checking a firearm, and they give you a special piece of paper that you put on top of your case.
Okay.
Because the case is inside your luggage.
Right.
And that's it.
But this doesn't get on the plane. This goes
Yes,
in the
it does.
belly of the plane.
Well, right. It goes.
You're
It goes
not-
in your checked luggage.
It goes in your checked
Yes.
luggage. You don't have access to
No.
it while you're flying to
Right.
Aruba or
No,
Texas, as you
no.
mentioned.
Yeah, no. I just in state. When you're traveling international, it's a whole nother kid. Yeah, don't even
Right.
go there.
Right, right.
I mean, you can, because
Sure.
all my friends who are competitive shooters, they go all over the world.
Now, what about the technology that, and we haven't talked about this, what about the technology that's out there where you can actually create a gun with plastic? You've seen this, or heard about it.
Oh, the 3D printing guns
Yeah.
and ghost guns.
I mean, when I started
yes.
seeing that, I went, oh my goodness, this is great. What's your opinion about all of that?
Well, I mean, it's going to be in the legislative session again this year. I'm relatively confident. We just went over bills last year on, they call them ghost guns.
Why do they call them ghost guns?
Well, so there's ghost guns and there's 3D printing, and they actually end up being similar.
Because they don't get detected?
No, so ghost guns are frames that don't have serial numbers on them.
Oh.
And the 3D printing guns would be guns that don't have a serial number on them.
So you think they should be outlawed?
No.
Why?
Because guns are not the problem. The cup is never the problem.
But don't you have to have a serial number on a gun? Doesn't it have to be registered to an owner? And I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm really wanting to just learn, you know.
I'm not a historian.
Okay.
So I probably have the dates wrong. But somewhere 1930s or 40s, maybe, are when serial numbers started to be on firearms.
Oh, so before that, it didn't
historical
exist.
ones
Sure.
do not have there are no serial numbers.
I see.
And I have plenty of friends who could answer that question for you for real. So if you want to know, let me know, and I will find out. Or you can just Google, when did firearms start having serial numbers?
Sure.
Depending on where you live, some guns are tracked, some guns are not.
All right.
Currently, I believe most guns have serial numbers and are manufactured with serial numbers.
Right.
But as to whether they're tracked, not necessarily after they've been sold.
Wasn't Bristol or Connecticut, Hartford, a gun manufacturer, a big one at one time? Or am I thinking of something?
Oh, Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, Cole was here.
Okay. They're not here anymore, though, right?
No.
Okay. What's the backstory on that? Why are you laughing?
No. I mean, it's just, Connecticut used to be a thriving state.
And it isn't anymore, is it?
It is not. Okay. And it's just like, it sort of breaks my heart. I was born right here in Winston, Connecticut.
Okay.
I've lived lots of different places, but it's just like driving around Connecticut and seeing all the factories that are shut down, all the industry that is no longer here in Connecticut.
They've moved away, and people are moving away.
Oh, people are moving away. And I've got tons of friends all over the state, or all over the country now, because they've left Connecticut.
Right. Is it because of the taxation? There's just no work?
Yes, and yes.
Okay.
And guns.
What do you mean guns? What's the issue?
Well, all the legislation that's been passed against gun owners
in Connecticut
is very brutal. Because like I said, back to the laws, your speed limit, you could be driving down any road, and within a couple miles, you'll see a sign that gives you a clue what the speed limit is supposed to be. Unfortunately, when it comes to being a gun owner, there are no signs. They just change stuff in the laws, and they're hoping that you'll figure it out on your own.
It's almost like they want to catch you or trap you or snag you. Is it because of Sandy Hook, or has it been this way for a while? Does it depend on who's in office, or what?
So yes, and yes.
Oh, okay.
But it's been going on for a long time. As a competitive shooter, I started competitive shooting in 2010.
Okay.
And there was a 10-round mag ban that was going across Capitol Hill. And I was very much like you, where I didn't know anything about anything. And the first time I heard about 10-round mag ban was maybe 2006, 2007. My whole thought was, what does it matter?
Yeah, let's ban them.
Who cares? Yeah. It's like, you still have bullets in your gun.
Right.
What does it matter?
Right.
Well, in 2010, as a competitive shooter, I now know about firearms. I understand that a Smith & Wesson M&P happens to come with a 17-round mag, and that's just how it comes.
I see. So
I didn't go upgrade to get a 17-round mag.
Sure.
It just came with a 17-round magazine. So the 10-round mag ban puts a financial burden on me.
Why?
Because now I have to go buy 10-round mags for my gun.
Interesting.
And I may not be able to get 10-round mags for a particular firearm, which means now I have a large paperweight. But again, average gun owners do not go to the Capitol every year to talk about these things.
Right.
Just like average anybody.
Right.
To other than lawyers,
right.
And even lawyers, you have gun lawyers and you have malpractice lawyers and you have criminal lawyers. It's like nobody knows all of the laws. And the fact they keep passing more and more, it's ineffective. It doesn't make us any safer. All it does is get actual gun owners who, as far as they know, have been following the laws, they do turn us into criminals unintentionally in the name of making our world safer, right?
Right. Yeah, well, I tell you, I appreciate you educating me. Had you on the podcast yesterday. I appreciate you being on last time and this time as well. So in the last couple minutes that we have, what would you share with our audience? And I'd love to have you shout out about your website, but just, you mentioned it last night, I think, on the podcast, and I think it had to do with mindset, right? Is that what you were talking about changing mind? Is that what it was?
Well, I mean, it's, again, I'm just trying to change focus.
You're changing focus.
I'm trying to get people to change their focus.
Okay.
Yes,
All
from
right.
a gun to an action.
Okay.
And from the swipe of a pen for a law, and instead to really focus on the problem and do the hard work of addressing suicide prevention and then gang violence.
Right.
Like order of magnitude.
We should focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned last week that book, Freakonomics, because, people think that this is the problem. Like, that's the problem here, or it's right here in the center. But the truth is, this isn't the problem. It's almost like people are being misdirected.
Yeah.
And that number, again, was 211 in case anyone's depressed or they need help.
Yeah.
That'll save me a lot of time when friends and family call. I say, look, don't call me. Just call 211. Or call Brooke. She'll help you.
Well, like I said, I do have Suicide Prevention Saturday on Facebook.
Yep.
Somewhere between 8 and 10:30 now, because
Okay.
I've been trying to do 8:30, but weekends get a little crazy. And once the sun starts going down later, I stay out later.
Yeah.
But all right, so a Great Start Shooting School. You can
Yep.
just go to greatstartshootingschool.com.
Here's a card. Yep.
You can also do agsss.com to get to my website. I'm on Facebook at A Great Start Shooting School. I don't know where else I would be. So yeah.
You're everywhere in Connecticut educating people about gun use and safety, and I really appreciate you being on this. Can we have you back in the next couple months?
Sure.
Would-
I'm just schedule. I'll be good.
Excellent. So, Brooke, thank you so much, and we hope that we gave you something to think about. I'm just looking at the time. We're out of time. Get a hold of Brooke Cheney. Go online, find her on Facebook, connect with her on Facebook and social media. Thank you so much, Brooke.